Hello everyone, how you going? And welcome to Canada versus Australia. Who is better to immigrate to? Now look, I can only imagine that both of these countries are going to stem from the same roots and even incorporate the same systems, but really, who is the top king?
Hi everyone, my name is Marilyn Quintana. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and director
That's
of
the title.
operations at eVisa Immigration.
Right.
And in today's video, we are going to discuss the differences between Canada and Australia. If you are thinking of moving to a new country, it is very likely that you are thinking of the possibilities of where you could move.
Yes.
Canada is a great country, especially for new immigrants. But why not compare your options before deciding a location to start a new life? In today's video, we are going to present the difference between Canada and another very popular destination, Australia. First thing that we're comparing today is the cost of living. Australia is considered somewhat more expensive than Canada. It is important to mention that this may vary from city to city.
Yes.
But overall, when you're comparing the cost of groceries, transportation, restaurants, Canada is 17.7% cheaper than Australia.
Whoa, that is a decent percentage, and I do now want to see, when was this video made? It was made fairly recently, March 2021, and so to be saying that it's 17%, let's just round it up to almost 20% in some cases, I can only imagine. That is a lot. Well, that's a big difference, especially when you're comparing just all the essentials. So now I'm wondering, does Australia earn 20% more? I mean, maybe we might have a 20% higher minimum wage, but overall, I wouldn't actually think that given our dollars and everything like that, we would earn that much more. But I mean, I guess as she did say, there are definitely ways to be decreasing, but also increasing your cost of living. You know, let's say you move out of the city, you might not be paying for tolls, you might not be paying for this and that, but then at the same time, your fuel's more expensive. All of those little things are definitely going to be adding up, and the major one is just going to be where you live in terms of just either renting or buying a place. That is going to be making a massive dent into whether you can afford to live in a country or not.
Second topic of this video, education. Higher education, especially for international students, it is more affordable in Canada than Australia. For example, the cost of 1 year tuition in Canada will range from $10,000 to $22,000 to $25,000 per year, while in Australia, this cost will range from $15,000 to $33,000 per year. Therefore, the fees charged by Australian institutions are slightly higher if compared to the Canadian ones.
Now, right from the get-go, I am now wondering, are the two figures that she just stated in US dollars, or are they in the two countries' currencies? Because that does make a bit of a difference. You know, Australia has, what does it have? Well, 1 Canadian dollar equals 1.1 Australian dollars, and I guess I'm not too surprised by that, but I did think that it was closer to parity than 10% out. Geez, that is actually a decent amount. When you're stacking up to, let's say, 20 grand, like she was saying these tuitions may cost, that can be 2 grand, which is no small amount of money. That could be a whole week, maybe 2, maybe 5 weeks of wages. I mean, of course, when we then go and compare it to the USD, it just becomes a very sad story. Look at that, 73 cents, and I can't imagine that Australia is going to be any better. Come on, 67. Oh, that is pretty darn to say, 67 cents of the dollar. And no wonder things are expensive.
Next topic, healthcare. Canada offers universal healthcare free of charge for most of its residents. Most of the time, even including the temporary ones that are here under study or work permits, for example. Of course, these vary from province to province, as each province has their own eligibility criteria regarding the access to medical services. Even services that are not included, for example, dental services or other specializations, in Canada, it is slightly cheaper than Australia. Australia also offers a very robust medical care system that's free of charge for their permanent residents or Australian citizens. However, most Australians prefer to pay an extended health insurance from their own pocket to cover additional services, including dental and other specializations.
I don't know about most. I know a lot of people, if not everyone, basically relies on Medicare to some degree if they need that service at all. I mean, I guess if you are saying that most people earn over $95,000 or $100,000, then perhaps they're going to be looking at getting private health insurance, but below that, no way. Who's going to be forking out that extra money when most people are never going to be using all the extra benefits and just not even using it whatsoever compared to what Medicare can't offer? I mean, I am sure that there are a whole bundle of people that definitely rely on particular services that private health insurances definitely helps to cover the aid of. Let's say you have have a chronic condition, it might end up long-term cheaper for you to get private health insurance than not, just to help cut some of those costs down. But realistically, I'm surprised that she can say most, because that definitely, in my experience, is not the case. It is definitely interesting to hear though that she rates Canada's healthcare service above Australia's, and I wonder why that is in particular. I mean, she did mention that they offer it to a broader range of people, just people coming over on temporary visas and things like that, but I thought that was also a thing that Australia did to some degree. I mean, even just people coming over and they scrape their knee just touring around, they can also go to the hospital, and it's not going to be $1,000 for a band-aid like it is in the USA. Oh, but actually that was something that stood out to me, the fact that it varies from province to province, and apparently dental is covered in some of them and then apparently not in others. I mean, I don't believe that Australia has anything like that. I believe that there is virtually no dental cover in Medicare system, which definitely doesn't come under Medicare. It might come under, I don't even know what it would come under. I don't believe that it comes under anything really. But then as far as I've ever been aware, Medicare is a standardized thing nationwide. I mean, there are definitely going to be different budgets and staffing problems and things like that. But I think as in terms of access to the overall system, it's just flat rate.
Now we are going to talk about work environment and work opportunities. Okay. Both countries have excellent job opportunities and work culture. However, the minimum wage in Australia, it is slightly higher than in Canada. On the other hand, it is easier for new immigrants to find skilled jobs because there is more occupations in demand, and it is a little bit easier to find qualified opportunities in Canada, which pays more than the minimum wage.
I just need to go back and try and listen to what she said.
More occupations easier for new immigrants to find skilled jobs.
Something jobs, SQ jobs,
skilled jobs.
Oh, I have no idea what she's saying there. I'm just hearing SQ or askew or something like that, and I have no idea what that could possibly mean. I mean, overall, the entire thing does make sense, especially knowing that with the USA right there, they just love to pilfer all of these professionals down into the USA, just luring them with bigger pay or better benefits or whatever it may be. But no wonder there are just going to be so many holes to fill in Canada then, because everyone's just straight out of there. But here we go. This is one of the answers to the questions that I did have, because she said Australia has a slightly higher minimum wage, and I was wondering how much is slightly, because before she measured in 20% higher for overall expenditure, but then how much more is slightly? So then, considering the fact that Canada actually, it's saying that they implemented a minimum wage, a federal minimum wage of $15.55 per hour as of April 2022, and then wow, previously they were subject to the minimum wage of whatever province or territory they worked in. That sounds like you could certainly be stitched up pretty darn quickly. I don't believe that once again Australia has anything like that. Similar to Medicare, it is definitely just a federal thing, and I believe it's for adults like $22. Oh, maybe it's not that high. Yeah, there it is, $21.38 an hour, so getting close to $22. But wow, that is actually a decent bit more than Canada's federal minimum wage, being 50% more. That's a lot. Hang on a second, can you do calculations in here? You can put minus, but I don't actually think it does anything. That's a bit of a shame. So in that case, a Canadian work week of 38 hours ends up being about $590. So 590 equals $648. And so it's not 20%, but it's definitely closer than 50. And so I guess Australia, it does come out ahead, but then like you said, just get a professional job and you are living.
Now let's talk about immigration. Without doubts, immigrating to Canada, it is easier than immigrating to Australia, especially when you consider the recent announcement of the Government of Canada in terms of the immigration targets for the next 3 years. Wow. Overall, Canada has more streams for immigration and also accepts more occupations as qualified worker for the eligibility in one of the many immigration options that Canada offers. Canada offers more options to immigrate and accounts for more than 80 different programs to choose from. Also, Canada accepts more occupations to qualify you as a skilled worker than Australia. In Canada, it's also easier to transition from temporary resident, for example, as a student or a temporary foreign worker, to permanent residency. But to be fair, let's compare the Express Entry Federal Skilled Worker Program from Canada and the Skilled Independent from Australia.
Well, before she goes into that, both of which I've never heard of before, which I guess isn't too surprising, but still, I'm not surprised that Canada is easier to migrate to. For goodness sake, even all the comments have told me that even while all the USA is just shutting down the borders, building walls and whatnot, Canada is just going, yeah, Mexico, come over here. We want all the workers we can possibly get. And then meanwhile, you just travel about, what is it, like 8,000 kilometers down to Australia, and then, yeah, you just get to stop the boats and you get all of these different stuff. Just people just locking people out on Christmas Island, Manu Island, all these kind of refugees and also asylum seekers, as well as just immigration, is never that easy. I mean, for goodness sake, people just live here for ages. And look, I do also agree that Australia is going to have a few more hurdles in this way that you have to jump over just to even make it here in the first place. You know, just the isolation and the distance and just, well, we're waterlocked, not even landlocked or anything like that. So you can't just drive up here or just walk across the border. No, you definitely just have to make a committed investment, even just moving your entire family over, going, okay, we're definitely taking a plane, but all of our stuff just has to get shipped there and that's expensive. You can't just hire a trailer and just drive.
Both programs target new immigrants with skilled work experience. Neither of them require applicants to have any connection with the country before applying. For example, having studied or worked in the country before becoming eligible. Similarly, both programs use a point system to qualify and choose the most qualified candidates. Now let's talk about the differences. Canada choose the most qualified candidates.
Honestly, listening to what you just said there, it just sounds like an absolute minefield where people just get stuck in system after system after system after system for years and years and years just trying to apply. And I guess if you're just a highly skilled worker that just gets brought over by a company, then you probably shouldn't have too many problems. But if you're just looking to try and just upskill or anything like that, I can't imagine that moving anywhere in the world is going to be too pleasant.
Now let's talk about the differences. Canada demonstrates an advantage in terms of processing time and cost for immigration. For example, the cost for one single applicant to immigrate to Canada, it is an average of $1,500. The same for the spouse, and only $225 for children. While in Australia, the cost for the main applicant, it is an average of 4,000 Australian dollars plus 2,000 for the spouse and almost $1,000 for each child included in the application.
I just need to pause it there because that makes such a massive difference right there. Like I said, then you just still got to pay for all the shipping and flights or whatever else it may be, but just even to have the chance to even come here, it's going to cost you 10 grand compared to maybe 2 grand or 4 grand. Like, that's a major difference. Even bringing the kids, people are going to go, do I really need them? Like, can't I just start again going $1,000 for you compared to $150, $200? No worries. That is a major difference. Man, Canada just makes it easy in that regard, and I guess that's why they just get so many more people in.
In terms of processing time, Canada is committed to process 80% of the applications within 6 months or less. For the equivalent Australian program, they are committed to process 75% of the applications in 8 months, which is a little bit longer than in Canada.
Honestly, I'm not surprised by that whatsoever, and at the same time, I doubt that they are actually going to be fulfilling that 75%. I just feel as though I hear so many people just saying it took forever. I mean, maybe if you're just going to be coming for a holiday visa, they probably have to process that a little bit faster, but honestly, if you were just trying to come here as a permanent resident or anything like that, that would just take so long to be able to just break through out 70%. And look, there is certainly no surprise that is going to be majorly driven by the resources and allocation by the government, just going, okay, Canada obviously wants people in, so they put resources and just make it happen, where Australia, I feel as though they're just being a little bit more lackluster about the entire thing, just going, do we really want to? I mean, we'll get to there eventually.
But to conclude, it is better to live in Canada or in Australia. It is very hard to say which one is better. It depends on your personal style, profile, and preferences. Both countries offer an amazing quality of life, have great infrastructure, and also strong economies. So it is your choice. But if you choose Canada, make sure to count on our support to assist you and guide you to make Canada your home.
Well, look, there is certainly no disagreeing with everything that you just said. As look, relatively speaking, on the scale of the entire world, both countries offer absolute A-tier infrastructure, technology, quality of life, everything that you can kind of live for and just work for. It's there in both countries. It's just like I said, do you want hot or cold or this or that, or is it easier to get into one or more expensive to get into the other? Whatever it may be, like she said, it definitely just comes down to personal preference, because yes, it might cost a little bit more to get into Australia, but on the scheme of your entire life, especially if you are moving, like she said, for a professional position, then really you're going to be making that back so fast. And just even count the UK in there, and so many places in Europe, so many places are going to be expensive, but really if you can just get out of where you need to get out of, then more power to you. As like we've seen many times, you know, Canada is a mosaic, and it just lets everyone be their individual selves, but also just carry over their heritage or culture or food, whatever it may be, religion, all of these things just get to find a place and just enlighten the entire rest of the community as to what goes on in the rest of the world.